In December 1988, the Northern Territory was a different world. No GPS, no cell towers, just thousands of miles of unforgiving bush. Two Norwegian backpackers, Erik and Olsen, hitched a ride from Brisbane all the way to Darwin. They were young, fit, and reckless. They wanted to see the real kakadu. They didn't listen to the warnings about the wet season. By mid-December, the sky opened up. In the top end, the rain doesn't just fall. It swallows the land. Within hours, the dusty tracks they followed became rivers. The savanna turned into a swamp. They were trapped on a small rise of land, a tiny island surrounded by rising muddy water. They were alone. Nobody knew they were there. And in the floodwaters, the monsters were moving. Olsen later told the police that the first sign of trouble wasn't a sound. It was a feeling of being watched. He saw a pair of yellow eyes reflecting his flashlight just at the water's edge. It wasn't a giant 6-meter monster. It was a 3-meter male, lean, fast, and incredibly hungry. For 3 days, the crocodile circled the tiny island. It didn't rush. It waited for them to move. Every time they tried to wade through the knee-deep water to reach high ground, they felt something hard and scaly brush against their legs. Imagine that, standing in the pitch-black water, feeling the living, prehistoric armor plate slide past your skin. Olsen said the fear was so intense, it felt like a physical weight on his chest. They couldn't sleep. Every splash in the dark sounded like a death sentence. On the 4th night, the water rose another 6 inches. Erik snapped. He couldn't take the waiting anymore. He decided to swim for a line of trees about 50 meters away. Olsen begged him to stay, but Erik was already in the water. Olsen watched from the bank. He saw Erik's head moving through the dark ripples. Suddenly, there was no scream, just a sharp, wet, thud, like a heavy log hitting a bag of sand. Erik's head simply vanished. Then came the sound that haunted Olsen for the rest of his life, the muffled, violent splashing of the death roll underwater. The sound of bones snapping like dry kindling. Then silence. Only the sound of the rain. Erik was gone. He didn't even have time to say a word. Injured, his back torn by branches, and his mind broken, Olsen spent next 48 hours clawing his way towards the banks of the Adelaide River. He finally reached a long mangrove tree and climbed. He climbed until his hands bled. Underneath him, the same 3-meter shadow waited. It sat there, motionless, just below the surface. Olsen watched his own blood drip from his fingers into the water, and every drop made the crocodile twitch. By the time a tour boat spotted him, Olsen was semi-conscious. He was clinging to a branch by pure instinct, his muscles locked in a permanent cramp. When the rangers rescued him, they didn't believe him at first. There were no signs of Erik. For months, Olsen was a suspect in his friend's disappearance. People thought he went bush mad and killed his partner. It took a full year for the truth to emerge. In a deep section of the creek, during a dry spell, rangers found 2 crushed human skulls and pieces of nylon backpack wedged under a submerged log. The Lord of the Mud had finally given up his secrets. But here's where the story gets darker. While the police was searching for Erik, they noticed something strange. 1988 was the year of the Great Flood in the territory, but it was also the year when a different kind of predator began to move. A year later, the infamous backpacker murders would shock the country. Some investigators in Darwin whispered, what if a human monster reached the boys before the crocodiles did? What if Olsen didn't just survive the river? There is a theory that Olsen saw something or someone on that island. Someone who offered him a choice. Or perhaps Olsen used the legend of the Lord of the Mud to hide a much more human crime. He survived the tree, he survived the water, but he never looked the same. When he talks about the eyes in the dark, is he talking about a reptile or the man who let him live?